Okay, what's up, everybody? And you know what? It's been a while since I've been on here, and I usually don't do a lot of these things right now. It's mostly pay-per-view reviews I do most of the time, but I wanted to actually come back and do a TV review this time because one, I haven't really talked about either Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, TNA, or any type of weekly television show, but I actually wanted to come and talk about SmackDown tonight. Well, one, it was in my hometown of Chicago, Illinois. And I usually don't really review SmackDown nowadays. I think SmackDown's really gotten boring now since being 3 hours and the show tends to drag for a long time. But given it was in my city tonight, I was awake basically through the whole thing. And it was actually a really good show tonight. And it's going to be a lot to talk about here. And obviously, we're 2 weeks away from WrestleMania itself. And a lot of other reviews going to be coming soon with so many pay-per-view shows coming up. So it's going to get real busy soon. But I actually wanted to come talk about SmackDown. So obviously, it was in the Allstate Arena, Chicago, Illinois, and obviously we kick it off with CM Punk, the hometown hero himself. A big pop for CM Punk, obviously, as the crowd was already chanting CM Punk's name before he even came out to the ring. And he took his time milking the crowd, hugging some fans, shaking hands with a whole bunch of people before even doing the whole it's clobbering time thing and letting the crowd do it. But Punk is just relishing in the moment and everything, and just shaking up with the fans standing on the barricade and stuff. And Punk says he didn't know where to begin. He said, he talked about, they said that the best television audiences were overseas, but when he knew he was coming to Chicago after this, he even got the camera from one of the cameramen saying like it's the Punk cam right now, and he even gave it back to the cameraman. And everybody says, you're not supposed to be here and everything. And he talked about he was born with a cord around his neck turning blue, saying he wasn't supposed to be here. And, now I'm out here on TV and thanking all 16,000 of his friends and family here tonight and that have made him. And he says, I don't know if you heard this, but I'm going to be main eventing WrestleMania. And, he says the goosebumps and everything, fans chanting, you deserved it. But he says, no, I earned it. And he talked about his training back at the Steel Domain Academy. And even WrestleMania 22 when he was like one of the gangsters on John Cena's, old school Al Capone car and everything. And everybody says, you wasn't supposed to be here. And even thanked his wife, AJ, which the fans did chant AJ Lee. And even thanked his dog, Larry. Fans chanted for the puppy, then Larry then after that. And people just kept saying, where would he be without being here? And he talked about the hard work begins now because he has a date at WrestleMania. He's going to kick Seth Rollins' ass and beat the hell out of Roman Reigns. And like I said, be in the main event during the main event of WrestleMania. So Punk is just got, like I said, is super over right now in this city. Going to be the main event of WrestleMania coming up this year. So everything is riding high on him right now. And then Paul Heyman came out doing this whole introduction thing. And he says he was late and apologized to Chicago and everything. There's no disrespect to his best friend in the world, CM Punk. Fans chanted ECW. And even Punk said, like, you're never going to escape those ECW chants then. But Heyman says, I can do something as a wise man, but a wise man can actually do something for you now, for you also. And he says, now you do belong in the main event of WrestleMania. And basically, Heyman talked about, I brought you back here. You helped against the bloodline, against Solo's bloodline. And talked about War Games, talked about Hell in a Cell against Drew McIntyre and stuff. And then the favor came up again. Because, Heyman thanked him and everything, but I got a favor to ask you, basically. And Punk said, we're stockpiling the favors I see. And Heyman says that, Punk doesn't know that, what the tribal chief knows right now. And Punk told Heyman, where's Reigns, and Reigns is in the building right now. He's at the training camp for WrestleMania. But Punk basically went on to tell him, like, I don't think, like, the favor is any of Roman's business, but it's going to affect him, basically. And Punk basically says, I want you to tell Roman to his face when he gets here. And Punk basically told him, like, we're friends and everything, but tell me when the big chief decides to show up, I'll be back out here later tonight. So, obviously a good opening of the show. Punk obviously embracing the Chicago crowd and still wondering what the favor was going to be with Heyman until we found out later on tonight. Now, next, it was the debut of Ray Fenix. He went against Nathan Frazier. Obviously, the crowd knew who Phoenix was, which I feel like everybody's just jumping ship from AEW to WWE right now. I'm almost surprised I didn't hear a Tony Fumble chant, but I actually thought this was a really good match to kick off the show. Now I know Nathan Frazier did botch out there. Doing the suicide dive and tripping on the rope stand, which did look pretty brutal, by the way, too. But they did recover. I know it was like another botch. It looked like a 1.2 with I know it was a Phoenix splash or something, but I thought Frazier kind of tripped a little then. But like I said, Phoenix, I thought it was a good, like I said, I thought it was a good match. He won with the what was it, the muscle buster, but they call it the Mexican muscle buster now. I never knew what Phoenix's finisher name was, but I actually thought it was a really good match still, though. And it was a really good debut for Phoenix. I think a lot of people have been waiting on this. Obviously, they got him on Smackdown, so at least they're trying to establish him as a single star right now instead of, putting him with his brother. And I'm sure they'll have the Lucha Brothers at some point, but they're not going to do it right now. But, Byron Saxton got in the ring after that, asking Phoenix, how was your debut? And he said he has a lot of history in Chicago, and he just made his debut here. And he talked about, how his whole life saying, I'm in WWE now, and said, animo. And, just bowed to the crowd after that. Next, Legato was in the back talking about Phoenix and everything. And, Humberto went on to say, like, I can do that. Like, I can take him on. And, as Santos says, that's the fire I want to see. So, you know what? You can have a match next week with Phoenix. And you show me what you can do. So, I enjoyed Phoenix's debut. Especially, like I said, a lot of stuff happened in the first, 30 minutes of this show with the Punk Heyman stuff. And now Ray Phoenix making his debut here. Other than the botch, I thought it was a really good match and a good debut for Phoenix. So, good on him. I know they had Drew McIntyre in an eye patch now, due to the, oh, look, real glass, folks. Sure, we had the inside joke about that last week. So now he has an eye patch on. An eye patch on now. So we already know what that's going to happen. It's obviously going to be a match with him and Priest at WrestleMania because Priest did talk later on and talked about how Drew fumbled all his opportunities against him for the world title. And I guess they're going to have a match at WrestleMania now. So we already knew that was going to happen. Braun Strowman was getting ready for his match later on tonight against Jacob Fatu in a last man standing match. And whoever wins will go for the U.S. title against LA Knight. Sol Sikoa and Tama Tonga showed up and talked about Strowman then, but LA Knight showed up then, saying, I'm not going to waste no energy on this pumpkin head right now. You're worried about your match tonight. He talked about his match with Tama Tonga. That basically came up next with LA Knight and Tama Tonga. Obviously, LA Knight was going to get the win right here, so a good solid win for him. Hit the BFT and everything, so good match from there. LA Knight is always over with the crowd. Paul Heyman was waiting in the parking area, waiting for Roman Reigns to show up. But it ended up being Seth Rollins then. He said, oh, you were expecting the other Shield guy. And he says, Heyman, you look horrible, man. So I know you dug yourself into a bigger hole than you already could now. So let me know when Roman Reigns arrives tonight. So we'll go on from there. And man, I have to have a phone call during this time now. What's up with that? But yeah, I get a phone call during a review though. But this is a segment I actually really want to talk about now, which obviously I felt went all over the place, that I didn't even know what to think about this, but the crowd obviously knew what to think about this. And this is the segment between Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton. And this was really bad. Okay, and I don't know where do I begin here, because I know a lot of people are now going to question that who cooked who out here, and did Charlotte go into business for herself within this whole promo segment, because I don't think anybody looked good out of this. I think I said this, and I even thought about this a couple weeks ago when they did that sit-down interview in the back. Charlotte basically destroyed Tiffany on the mic, like, hey, this is just another WrestleMania for me. Like, I don't even know why I'm facing you, basically, and all that. And looking at this promo, obviously the crowd was going to be on Tiffany's side, that they've been chanting, Tiffy time and all that in Chicago, and Charlotte just kept getting booed so loudly. Charlotte easily got rattled by the crowd, and you could see it. And, I haven't done any charity work lately, she's talking about. And, these are supposed to be the smartest fans over here, but it's no comparison. And Tiffany says, I'm your biggest competitor in the ring and all that stuff. And you've never battled me. And you're second to your dad, Ric Flair. You're going to come second in WrestleMania. And Charlotte kept trying to talk, but like I said, the fans kept going over her that, it just, she easily got rattled. You could definitely see it. But Tiffany said, I have that power now. and you know, what's wrong? The cat got your tongue and everything. And then, Charlotte once again saying, I'm going to have the last word. Well, she told Stratton you got the last word, basically. But Stratton said, I've done more this at the age of 25 while you were playing, like, volleyball and drinking in your dad's basement and all that. Um, I'm walking into WrestleMania as the women's champion. The fans cheered. And, Tiffany went on to say, like, you claim this is not a match for you, but, I've gotten to you now and you might be the queen inside the ring, but you're not the queen of shit. And it did. Charlotte just kind of went on to make like a high pitch, like you sound so squeaky. And, like I guess she stuttered, and Charlotte just kept doing this impression, like this, almost like a mouse, almost just sounding like that. And then Tiffany called her a nepo baby, and Flair said, "No, I'm a nepo queen. Okay, I'm a nepo queen. All right, so whatever." And Charlotte, it's like Tiffany says, like, when I'm done with you at WrestleMania, you got your record and everything, but you're gonna be 0-3, just like what you are right now, alone. Because talking about her marriage and divorces and all that. And to like Tiffany, it's like, why don't you ask what Kaiser would send my DMs, huh? And which I don't know what to think about this segment. I think the promo sounded horrible from both women. A lot of people said Tiffany cooked her. I think if the crowd wasn't on Tiffany's side so much, it'd probably be a different story. Because Charlotte just kind of went out there and just did not care, or either just tried to destroy Tiffany. And you could just hear it was like a lot of inside shots. Because it was like inside shots when even Tiffany was talking about, oh, I'm not the one crying on a daytime television show or something like that. I feel it's just on Sherry Shepherd's show. I didn't even know that. And then you got Charlotte just addressing, like, I don't even think WWE's ever even addressed this, but a lot of people already know, obviously online and whatnot, that Kaiser is dating Tiffany Stratton. So I think people already know that online, but it's never really been addressed on TV. Like, I think Tiffany with the crowd really helped with the promo. I think she just kind of was able to be quick on it and at least tried to, make herself look like going into something in a WrestleMania. Listen, I haven't cared about this feud in general. I think this feud has been horrible. I think Charlotte just been kind of just trying to steamroll her over on the microphone going into WrestleMania. I don't know if this will make a difference tonight, but you could easily tell how Charlotte just kept getting rattled by the crowd. Like, she just gave up on the promo almost and didn't even try to, like, even when she tried to talk over them, she just kind of gave up and just didn't even try. Like, people brought Dominic Mysterio that, Dominic Mysterio would have just kept going and playing more into the heat. But it's like Charlotte just kind of gave up real fast. It was like I said, it was like a lot of inside shots just from, Charlotte's, I guess, recent divorces and the one from Andrade. And then, Charlotte telling Tiffany, hey, why don't you ask Kaiser what's in my DM? So I don't think this looked good on anybody's side. I think more people were with Tiffany, obviously, throughout this whole. Like I said, she got a huge reaction from the crowd. It's just, this was not about to work in Charlotte's favor. And then again, it's like Charlotte cooked Tiffany on the microphone a few weeks ago. So I guess it's like this was the get back right here. So, like I said, you got to at least make the face look strong going into Mania, because I don't think no one, like I said, it just looked like Charlotte just kind of like throughout this whole feud, it's just like Charlotte's been kind of just squatting over Tiffany, damn near taking a crap out on her throughout this entire feud. Me personally, I kind of wanted to see Charlotte pick Rhea again and do a three-peat. Well, like the rubber match between them at WrestleMania, but obviously knew that wasn't going to happen. So I don't even know if Charlotte, I still think Charlotte's going to win in WrestleMania just because, but they may just have Tiffany go over Charlotte just for the heck of it. I don't know if things change after this segment, because it just felt like all shoot. A lot of people said this wasn't even on the script or anything. This felt like just all shoot out there. Just like all like just inside jabs, just trying to take personal shots at each other out there. And I think even it's kind of crazy because Charlotte did say, Tiffany, I'm going to give you the last word. But then it's almost like you almost had your last word. I got to get the last word. So I don't know if anything from the back is going to come from this. This isn't like the first time Charlotte has done this type of stuff before, which some would say has gone to business for herself. But I don't think this promo looked good on anybody. This was probably one of the worst things throughout the whole night. But at least it worked in Tiffany's favor for the crowd to be on her side. But I thought both of the promos were just really bad and just a lot of inside jokes. Now, right after that, Nick Aldis did announce some tag team gauntlet match for next week for the women's tag titles, and whoever wins the gauntlet match will face Liv and Raquel for the titles of WrestleMania. The Street Profits were out to getting ready to watch another number one contenders match between the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. I'm gonna be honest, I thought the match was pretty good. The crowd didn't really care. I'm sorry, and then again, it's like the crowd doesn't care about a lot of the tag teams when it comes to SmackDown every week. I could say that about Raw too. The tag team division sucks on both shows because you barely ever see them, or the crowd just does not care. And I like the Motor City Machine Guns, but I can't really say none of this is really over right now. But the Guns did get the win. Like I said, I thought it was a good match. It's just nobody really cared. I thought it was a good, polite reaction they got, but it's not like they get really, gave a fuck and everything. So that's how I kind of looked at it. Uh, Carmelo Hayes and The Miz were in the back, walking up to Pretty Deadly, talking about them, saying, you guys are going to lose more than the Chicago Bears and stuff. And Pretty Deadly tried to mock Miz about his Marine movies, but Miz says, I'm a 9-time tag team champion. And he says, how many partners was that, huh? And you got a new one now, and they said, Mello don't miss. Carmelo Hayes' booking on SmackDown has to be very questionable. I know this guy's been taking a lot of L's lately, like a lot of L's on here, but now he's teaming with The Miz now. I don't know where this is going to work on that, but Mello don't miss, folks. Mello don't miss. Next, we had Owen Hart Naomi versus B-Fab, which, then again, Naomi made her entrance, which I say Owen Hart because she's wearing the caution tape like Owen Hart now, but Naomi got attacked immediately from behind by Jade Cargill, which the whole security had to hold her back. And as soon as Naomi got in the ring, the match happened and didn't even really go that long anyways. Naomi won. It was some new move she had, so she won from there. And then she told Jade to get back out here. I'm not done with you yet. Jade attacked from behind, beating up Naomi, tried to hit her with the Jaded, but security came in the ring. Nick Aldis came out, said, I've had enough of this. So at WrestleMania, it's going to be Naomi versus Jade, which I feel that was going to happen anyway. So, like I said, they're adding more matches on the WrestleMania as we go now. I know it's only 2 weeks away, so they got time to build, but some stuff I do feel like we're kind of adding a little bit of the last second at the same time here. Um, right after that, Nick Aldis came out there and said, this is part of the job that isn't really good. It's not fun to do this. Injuries happen. They said, don't try this at home. Kevin Owens came out to make an entrance, and he talked about he's been doing this for over 25 years now, and he's given everything he has in the ring. And, he's done everything he could to take care of his family and stuff he, never thought he would even dream for. But he's had to pay the price like multiple people in the back, this business takes takes a toll on people's bodies and everything, of all the wrestlers, all the men and women in the back, and he has a pretty serious neck injury. It's been kind of happening for 4 months now. He didn't really know what it was at first, but now that they found out, he has to have neck surgery, and the timing couldn't be worse because he wanted to get in the ring with Randy Orton at WrestleMania, but it's not going to happen now. So he's thankful for the company to just let him come out and address everything that happened. And stuff, and he basically says he doesn't know when he's gonna be back, so hopefully he'll be back at some point. And Owens thanked the fans. He said he was sorry, and he shook Nick Aldis' hand. And as he was leaving, Randy Orton's music played. He took a slow walk out there. They looked at each other on the apron, and Owens headed to the back after that. And, the one weird part about this, when Owens was headed to the back, he just turned around and started going to yell at some fan or something. Like, he walked up to him. I don't know what was said there, but somebody had to say something to just make Owens just walk over like that, because I didn't know what was going on first, because, like, you just see Owens walking away, but then he just turns around and, like, somebody mouthed off the words he was saying, like, like, say that shit again or something. So I don't know who told him something or what happened, but you could tell that wasn't part of the show, because they cut the camera like quickly to Randy Orton in as fast as they could, because Owens was going back and forth with somebody there. So I don't know what that was about, but I just thought that was really strange. And then Nick Aldis said, like, Orton, I have bad news for you also. You no longer have a match at WrestleMania. Orton just looked at Aldis and just dropped him with an RKO in and walked in the back. So two-way things, I look at it like this, and I know some people are thinking this now. One, they feel like this is a work, and that Kevin Owens is just going to come back and attack Orton before WrestleMania, and that the match is still going to go on. Me personally, I think that WWE wouldn't really fuck around when it comes to neck injuries like that. So, I do believe this is legitimate. I think this is unfortunate for Kevin Owens, and that's really sad to see. I was looking forward to kind of seeing this match to see where it was gonna go. So that does really suck for Kevin Owens. You know, you have to wish him in the best. You know, hope everything goes out with the neck surgery and everything. I don't know when he'll ever be back, but coming back from the neck is a really tough thing to do. I don't know what they do with Randy Orton at this point or where he's gonna go. So obviously, it's just it sucks. It really does suck. And like I said, the neck is nothing to mess with. So we've seen what happens with wrestlers and when it comes to neck injuries. So it definitely sucks. So like I said, I don't think this is some work like kayfabe where it's gonna be, you know, KO gonna attack at the last second, especially with 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. I don't know. If it does, maybe I'll say they got me for that, but I'm like, nah, this is his neck and the way this was going, even letting this happen. Because at first I actually thought Orton and KO were gonna kind of just do something at the last second, but I'm like, nah, I think this is real. Kevin Owens is hurt. Um, and like I say, he has a serious neck injury, and we're just not going to see him for a while. So that does suck to see. But I did want to kind of find out who he was yelling at the end there with that fan. So it just kind of caught my attention at the last second. I was like, what was going on there? Right after that, we had Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman in a last man standing match. I thought it was really good. Good match. Um, excuse me. It ended up with if I remember that, I know they even went to into the crowd and went through some tables and stuff and staggered back into the ring. Jacob just hit like his big hip attack onto Braun Strowman, knocking him into a table, and was able to get up before the 10 count. So Jacob Fatu won, and now he will get a title shot against LA Knight at WrestleMania. I thought it was going to be some multi-person match at WrestleMania since everything else has turned into a multi-man match at WrestleMania with just triple threat and fatal four ways. All it feels like all over the place. I thought there was gonna be some triple threat fatal four way match between LA Knight, Strowman, Jacob, and maybe a Solo. But I guess it's gonna be a 1-on-1 then with both of these two. So it's just gonna stick with that. But it's just been so many triple threat matches being made. I thought this was gonna be another triple threat match. But hey, another week anything can happen. So we'll see what goes on from there. But Jacob Fatu is now the new #1 contender. In the last part of the show, Heyman was still at the garage waiting for Roman Reigns. Roman made a beeline to the ring, basically rushed his way down there. No 10-minute entrances. He told Chicago to acknowledge him and everything. Fans chanted OTC, and then they chanted for CM Punk after that. So he says he's still in the building, right? We're still talking about this favor, right? Bring him out here. But Seth Rollins came out then, as fans were still chanting OTC and stuff, because Owens, not Owens, why am I saying Owens? Reigns basically told Punk to come out and indulge the tribal chief, but like I said, he got Seth Rollins then, and Rollins told Reigns, like, you don't live in this world, dude. You live in your own little world right now, and that reality is not here with you, because you need to remember something. Remember the heist of the century and all that. Remember last year's WrestleMania, how I got you. And fans was just start chanting, what's the favorite? Because that's all we wanted to hear anyways, was the favorite. And that's Seth Rollins to go on for another 5 to 10 minutes. He dressed like a spaceman this time and not a cross-dresser. But Rollins basically, I wonder what the favor is too. And basically talked about, Punk and, maybe if he'll go away or ignore him. It just doesn't work like that. And Reigns basically says, the reality is this. You're just not trustworthy, okay? We know what you've done before. You betrayed the Shield and everything. And then the fans start trying to sing Roman Reigns and all that. But he says, I want Punk out here. And he says, well, there's only one thing missing. Punk came back out. And, I wanted to, this favor is about friendship and loyalty. And it goes all the way back to Louisville, Kentucky, back in OVW. And even talking about, he was talking with Heyman and Big Show and RVD, and Heyman was leaving the company at the time, and they probably wanted Punk fired, but they didn't fire him, and he talked about the powers that be and all that stuff. He says, you're going to have to deal with us now, okay, because Reigns, I'm taking you out of your comfort zone. So now this is what the favor basically is, that the wise man, my best friend here, is going to be in my corner at WrestleMania. Ron is just sitting there laughing like a fish in the corner. And Heyman is just very shocked as Reigns was just laughing and in disbelief. Like, that's your favor? That's your favor, right? You understand he loves me, right? He's not going to leave me. And he says, tell this desperate fool, let him down easy, man. Just let him down easy. And then he looked at Heyman, are you crying? He said, you better wipe them tears up right now. And Reigns told him, like, I made you relevant. Okay? I made you. I'm carrying you around here. And he told, Heyman, tell him no. Tell him no. All right? And Heyman basically says, no, my tribal chief, I can't do that. Punk smiled then, and then, Reigns just looked at him and started grabbing Heyman after that. And then Punk just attacked Reigns and GTS'd him then. Rollins and Punk had a stare down after that as, the show went off the air. Let me say something about this whole thing. Honestly, I would have been more interested if I saw Punk versus Reigns at WrestleMania than actually see this triple threat match. Because I know it's been, a lot of people have been questioning now that why is this even the main event for night one of WrestleMania? And I think I said this last week when it was being the main event of WrestleMania. Who else were you going to put in the main event of WrestleMania for night one? Given the first off, you weren't going to put Reigns anywhere else but the main event with or without the title. I really believe it probably should have just been Punk versus Reigns at WrestleMania and that adding Seth, but given that you've done Punk and Seth, listen, it's a lot of stories to be told with all three of these guys here, okay? It really is. So I don't know who else thought this was not going to be the main event of WrestleMania. Some people thought the women's title was going to be the main event, the triple threat. I don't know where anybody thought that, but I never thought that was going to happen at all. So, like, come on, they're going to go over, like, the women's title going to go over Roman Reigns. Let's, come on, be honest with yourselves here for a second, people. Like, did anybody really believe that? Now, I know things have been questioned about this triple threat match because, one, like I said, does anybody believe this should really be the main event or where it's going? As for the favorite itself, I thought he would have just asked for a title shot or something at WrestleMania. Whoever wins gets a title shot, but it's like, no, you're going to be in my corner at WrestleMania, which I thought that was going to happen anyways. This feels like now it's a match for who gets custody of Paul Heyman. That's why I almost thought this match was going to go. It's like whoever wins this triple threat match will get custody of Paul Heyman, and then he'll be the new wise man for them. That's what I thought was basically going to happen, but I guess they got out of the way now. Like, he's going to be in my corner, so you won't have your wise man. He's going to be my wise man now. And Heyman just agreed to it. So that's the big favorite, folks. And that really wasn't a title shot or anything. So it wasn't nothing that really set the world on fire here. It really didn't, okay? So I know, like I said, it's been questionable whether this triple threat should be the main event, but I personally would rather have seen Reigns versus Punk at WrestleMania. I think that would have been a little bit more interesting. And I'll really say this kind of before I get up out of here. When it comes to the build of WrestleMania this year, I really don't think it's been all that. I really think it hasn't. Other than a few matches and a couple stuff like, the Punk Rollins Reigns thing and maybe a Cody Cena stuff, a lot of the build has not really been that good for WrestleMania. It hasn't. Maybe because The Rock isn't there. Because you look at last year going into WrestleMania, the show was super hyped for WrestleMania 40. Maybe because you had The Rock out there just doing concerts and telling people to go smoke some crack and being on the show almost every week and beating the hell out of Cody in the parking lot in this city, by the way, too. It felt more interesting last year. Right now, I guess with The Rock not being there, it hasn't really been all that interesting. It really hasn't. I just feel like the build going into Mania hasn't been all that. And they only got 2 weeks left, but I feel like a lot of matches either haven't really been built up well like that, or the matches you have been building, it hasn't really been about nothing. Because it's like, man, we finally made the Jey Uso Gunther stuff interesting when you only got 2 weeks now away from WrestleMania, because the rest of the build has sucked throughout most of the entire time. The Tiffany Charlotte feud sucks in general. We know how bad that's been, even including tonight, too, with people damn near doing a whole shootout there with each other. And some matches I probably even forgot now. You forget the tag teams are really around like that, so I didn't really know who the Raw Tag Team Champions were till last Monday. I really kind of forgot about that. So, other than like a few matches that at least had some build, like, that has the crowd caring about, it hasn't really been like that for this year's WrestleMania. It really hasn't. The build has just really not been there like last year. And once again, like I said, maybe because The Rock isn't on here. I think this was a newsworthy, good show coming out of SmackDown tonight, because usually I just kind of get bored with these 3-hour SmackDowns now. I don't think this show ever should have been 3 hours to begin with and should have stayed 2 hours, but maybe because it was here, I was more interested in it. Maybe because it was Punk, obviously, out there in Chicago, and obviously the Reigns and Rollins stuff, and Heyman with the favor. Ray Fenix making his debut, too, tonight on SmackDown. And I guess the disaster promo between Charlotte and Tiffany, how it went all over the place. And I actually liked the last man standing match with Jacob Fatu and Strowman out there. So I actually thought SmackDown was a really good show tonight, other than maybe a a few other segments. I didn't really care much about the tag team match, to be honest with you, with DIY and the Guns. Like, it wasn't even a bad match. I just think the crowd didn't really give a crap like that about it. So that's my take on it. But overall, I just thought SmackDown was really good going in tonight, especially with 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. But I just really got to say, the build just hasn't really. I feel like the build hasn't been up there like that for WrestleMania this year. I really don't think it has, and it's just been kind of. I don't want to say coasting all the way, but it's almost like, yeah, WrestleMania is in like another week or two. So other than a few matches here, like the hype just hasn't been up for real like that, like last year. And I think with The Rock not being there, I feel like that's made a very big difference out of all of this. But I don't know. But tell me what you think about SmackDown tonight, okay? Did you like this show? Did you hate this show? I enjoyed the show. I'm not trying to be biased because it was in my city tonight, but I actually did enjoy SmackDown. And they, they usually do go all out for Chicago, okay? But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the show. But other than that, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at HoodNight890. May have an AEW Dynasty review coming up after Sunday. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But other than that, I'm out of here. I'll see y'all then. Peace out.